Hi, hello, and welcome. I'm definitely not Dad, and you're watching the All Tanks, All Tens Mega Series, where we take every tank sprint from character creation to all tens done in the War Within Season 3. We're currently working on DADSTACHE, the Prot Paladin. I'm sure you can tell why this character is called DADSTACHE. It's because of the beanie. And DADSTACHE has a dad mog because, I don't know. I was wearing a brown beanie at the time, and I had a bit of a DADSTACHE thing from the dad stream, blah, 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 blah. So here we are. Thank you, Mr. Bubbles, for the amazing name, DADSTACHE. You have inspired the entire look of this character. Now, DADSTACHE is pretty decked out. We got the 696 item level in about 6 hours of gameplay at max level. I think I only played, let me check how much I have played. I've played 20 hours total, 8 hours 35 at this point at max level. That's because I've been flying around trying to get some more sparks. I did get another spark, but we can get one more. I'm not going to craft anything with it just yet, but once I have enough gilded crests, I will. That's besides the point, though. What I want to talk about is how to play Prot Paladin. I'm kidding. Not really how to play, but just some like general information so you guys can keep up with what I am doing when I play Prot Paladin. So before we get started here, I would like to point out this is going to take a while for me to explain. There's a lot to Prot Paladin to know. So if you're not interested in this, if you've played a bunch of Prot Paladin, you know all this, skip ahead using the chapters in the description or just looking at the progress bar. It'll be denoted where I actually start doing dungeons. You can skip ahead. Don't get bored by this. This will take a moment because there's a lot to cover. So let's get started. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about our general rotation. We're going to talk about our resources. We're going to talk about our active mitigation, our sustain, and our defensive cooldowns. Then we're going to talk about our utility and our off healing. So let's get started. Our general rotation is you put down consecration, you use judgment whenever you can, and then you use blessed hammer when you can't use judgment anymore. And as soon as you have 3 holy power or more, what you want to do is you want to spend your holy power on Shield of the Righteous. Shield of the Righteous is your active mitigation as well. I'll get on that a little bit later. But you don't want to use your holy power on Word of Glory. Why? Because using Shield of the Righteous, every 3 Shield of the Righteous gives you 1 free cast of Word of Glory that doesn't cost holy power. So you don't want to spend holy power on that when you'll just get a free one soon. So speaking of Word of Glory, that is our sustain. That's pretty much it. Another form of sustain that we have is through our hero talents in Templar, where using our hero talents correctly or just using the ability that it gives you, which is Hammer of Light, you get a big absorb shield and you get a heal. It's really nice, but our main form of sustain does come from Word of Glory. So what is our active mitigation? One form of active mitigation is our consecration itself. Standing in it gives you a flat damage reduction buff, which is from our mastery. You can see while inside your consecration, your damage taken is reduced by 11.1%. This obviously goes up and down depending on how much mastery you have. And it says you have a chance equal to your block chance to reduce your damage taken from harmful periodic effects. Basically, you can block ticks of damage. That's basically it. Furthermore, it increases our block chance for melee attacks and it increases our attack power. So that is kind of nice. A lot of paladins opt for haste mastery. A lot of paladins opt for haste crit. I haven't seen haste verse or anything like that, but haste mastery and haste crit are the options. Supposedly right now the meta is haste crit. You even want more crit than haste. I'm going to treat it a little bit differently because for raid, you definitely go for more crit. But for M+, it's kind of a toss-up between haste priority and crit priority. It doesn't really matter. I can let more experienced paladins speak about that in the comments if they wish. Why is crit so good? Because of a couple of interactions with our talents, but primarily because parry chance is great. If you can get more crit, you can get more parry. If you can get more parry, you can get even more value out of a talent that we have, which is our strength in adversity. It increases our parry chance for each target hit by a measure's shield. But let's get back to active mitigation. So consecration, keep standing in it. If you need help with uptime, you can get sanctuary. I use it because I'm bad. So I prefer to have 4 extra seconds after I leave or it runs out. As you can see, I'm outside of it, but I still have the buff. And that is really, really nice. An even more important form of active mitigation comes from Shield of the Righteous, which you need 3 holy power to be able to use it. You can also count on Divine Purpose if you get a proc of that. That's really nice. So when we have 3 holy power, we can use a Shield of the Righteous. Shield of the Righteous gives us about 143,000 armor. That is basically doubling our armor. So you really want to make sure you keep Shield of the Righteous up. It'll make a gigantic difference. Again, that is another reason why we never use Holy Power on Word of Glory, because Shield of the Righteous is much more important to your survivability than being able to heal yourself a little bit when the next auto attack is just going to hit you really, really hard anyway. So keep that in mind. Now, we have a few other forms of active mitigation. One of them is when we use Word of Glory, there's a talent that gives us this buff right here, which is Faith in the Light, which increases your block chance for 6 seconds by 30%. That is massive. You're going to have a good uptime on this as Lightsmith because you'll be spamming Word of Glory for CDR on your Lightsmith talents or abilities. But I wouldn't stress about this too much personally. In lower keys, once you get into super high content, this will be kind of a break point whether you live or die. But in the content I'm doing, you kind of don't really have to give a shit about this. You'll be fine without it. But personally, I try to keep it up if I can think of it. But in the middle of commentary and stuff, I'm probably going to fail to get an amazingly good uptime on this. So there's that. Later on, in the super high keys and whatnot, this is going to be very important. But you'll probably be running, like I said, Lightsmith then, and you won't give a shit about it. You'll just have this by default because you'll be spamming Word of Glory. So that's our active mitigation. I did also mention another thing, which is the parry chance. Avenger's Shield in general gives you a lot of defensive stats. From this parry chance per hit to Barricade of Faith, which gives you 10% more block chance. So in general, use Avenger's Shield to keep these buffs up. In your usual rotation, you'll get a very good uptime on both of these talents. So that's really nice. So what about our defensive cooldowns? We have quite a few, and some of them are very long defensive cooldowns. Like this Guardian of Ancient Kings has 5 minutes. Bubble is actually a defensive cooldown, believe it or not. It's 3.5 minutes. It's kind of crazy. You only use Bubble if you have Final Stand, and if you don't have Final Stand, you're kind of trolling, bro. It makes everything around you get taunted within 15 yards. Do note, it has to be within those 15 yards. So if you have a caster or something, or like a sniper type marksman or NPC very far away from you, that thing's going to drop aggro when you bubble, and it's going to start shooting your healer and or other DPS if they have aggro on it. So yeah, try not to do that. For example, Halls of Atonement, the Houndmaster, if you bubble, is probably going to start shooting off. If he's too far away, he's going to start shooting other targets. Priory first pull or any pull with sharpshooters. Keep in mind that if the sharpshooters are not close enough, you will not taunt them with bubble. So keep that in mind when you're about to bubble. Will I be murdering or sentencing some people to death by using bubble? Keep that in mind. So I did mention, and I started talking about that, then I got distracted by bubble, that some of these cooldowns are pretty long cooldowns. Why is that the case, and how is this supposed to make sense? Well, we get a lot of CDR. Gift of the Golden Valkyr reduces Ancient King's cooldown. Resolute Defender reduces Ardent Defender and Divine Shield cooldown. And Righteous Protector reduces Guardian of Ancient Kings and Avenging Wrath and or Sentinel. Not and or Sentinel if you have that talented. So these are very, very potent, and they're kind of core to your gameplay. Because your active mitigation is not as powerful as some of the other tanks, like Protection Warrior, who with Shield Block and Ignore Pain can kind of live through anything other than the biggest tank busters in the game. Your active mitigation is not as powerful. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to augment yourself with some more defensives like Ardent Defender and Guardian of Ancient Kings. Of course, there's Eye of Tyr, but you kind of mash that on cooldown because of your hero talent if you're running Templar. Sentinel is also there, / Avenging Wrath, which I don't know if Avenging Wrath is actually considered a defensive, but all of these things that you can use, all of these defensive cooldowns here, you want to overlap them, but weave them with your defensive or with your active mitigation. What am I trying to say here? Basically, you're gonna have Shield of the Righteous and Consecration up all the time. You're gonna have your Avenger's Shield buffs up and maybe Faith in the Light. And then on top of that, you're gonna use Ardent Defender, or Guardian of Ancient Kings, or Eye of Tyr, or Sentinel. And notice, or. You do not want to overlap too many defensives, like actual defensives. Active mitigation, yeah, go for it. But defensives, you don't want to ever have Ardent Defender and Guardian of Ancient Kings up. You don't want to have Ardent Defender and Sentinel up, Guardian of Ancient Kings and Sentinel up. You don't want those to overlap. Why? Because you're just wasting them. You don't need that much defensiveness. Your active mitigation plus these should be able to keep you alive if you just use one of them. Sure, in a really nasty pull, you might need multiple, but just bubble. It's really, really dangerous to overlap them because you're not going to get them back up in time to still use them within the same pull. So don't overlap them. You'll run out of defensives and kick the bucket. It'll be embarrassing. Everyone will point at you. They will laugh. It'll be awkward. You'll remember it for like 3 keys. You'll feel bad. You'll tilt. You'll brick. It's horrible. So don't overlap your defensives. I'm being dramatic, but yeah. Now, as far as hero talents go, there's Templar and there's Lightsmith. Templar revolves around using Eye of Tyr to then be able to use Hammer of Light. Using Hammer of Light gives you a buff called Shake the Heavens. This does basically AoE damage, treated as AoE damage. It's also does single target damage. Your goal as Templar is to keep Shake the Heavens going as long as possible. How do you do that? Well, you use your holy power generators. Crusader Strike, which is Blessed Hammer for us, Hammer of Wrath, Judgment, all increase it by 1 second. So you drop the hammer, then you spam your generators. You don't overcap on holy power because let's not be silly. Shield of the Righteous is off the global cooldown, just use it. And then for every hammer that falls, you get a stack of this buff, which lets you, at 60 stacks, send another hammer for free. You want to use that so that you can get more uptime on Shake the Heavens and of course do damage. And then by the time that runs out again, you'll have another Eye of Tyr, rinse, repeat. You try to keep Shake the Heavens uptime as much as possible. I don't really focus on this, but it doesn't really matter. Lightsmith, the way it works is you have this buff that you can use on yourself or others. Doesn't matter because you will get the buff always. And if you use it on yourself, it'll just jump to someone else who can use it. So it's on 2 targets. Doesn't matter. You try to get as much uptime on this as possible, and you can reduce the cooldown on it by using Word of Glory. So you're just mashing Word of Glory on cooldown to get as many holy armaments out as possible. This is the core of the gameplay. In higher end content, you might see yourself running in pulls because of mashing Word of Glory so much. So what is our utility? Our utility is not just the Blinding Light AoE CC, which is kind of shit because it's a 1.5 minute cooldown. That's a very long cooldown for the only AoE CC we have. Hammer of Justice is a pretty good cooldown. It's 45 seconds by Natty, and then you can drop it to 30 by grabbing Fist of Justice, which is really nice. Our utility comes from Blessing of Protection, Blessing of Sacrifice, Blessing of Freedom, and Off Healing is also really good utility. We have Lay on Hands and we have Word of Glory. So what does each of those things do? Blessing of Protection makes someone immune to physical damage and removes any sort of physical debuffs on them for 10 seconds. It is incredibly powerful and can be used in a lot of different situations, which I will try to point out while I'm playing and commentating, but there's a lot of places where it's useful. I might forget a few times, but that's just the nature of the beast. I have a lot to do when I'm commentating. There is the magic damage equivalent of that, which is Blessing of Spell Warding. I'm currently not running it because I opted into Sanctuary and I want 1 point in this to kind of help with aggro a little bit. So I don't have that, but I recommend running it if you don't need, if you don't need training wheels with your consecration, and if you don't mind losing aggro a few times to not hitting a few mobs sometimes, you can opt into Blessing of Spell Warding. I just like these talents more because I forget to use this anyway. Blessing of Spell Warding can be used to help out your healer, for instance, in very high AoE damage situations. Very good example of this in Swamp Face when he's doing the waves and slamming the ground. You put this bad boy on your healer. Your healer doesn't have to give a shit about the waves or anything. He can just sit there, tunnel heals into your party members that are dying actively to the binding thing dot and to the AoE that Swamp Face is casting, and probably also to getting hit by waves because they're not paying attention. So yeah, Blessing of Spell Warding, great to use on your healer in that situation. Furthermore, more utility. Blessing of Sacrifice. Effectively a 30% DR on whoever you cast it on. You will be taking the damage that you're preventing, but you're a big boy tank. You can take it. You can drop this cooldown to 1 minute if you grab this thing, and then furthermore, you can also get Righteous Protection, which removes poisons and diseases and prevents them for the duration of the sack. Very useful in Arakara if you're worried about people dying to poisons on last boss or the first few pulls in the first boss area. Something to consider, but you'd have to drop some very valuable talents here, so maybe not worth it after all. Blessing of Freedom, a horribly underused talent in my opinion. It gives you movement speed if you have Unbound Freedom. You can also cast it on someone while also getting it yourself, so you can double up and speed up two people. Or what you can also use it for is to remove any slows and remove any roots on people. In Priory, those sharpshooters, when they drop those traps, if you step into the trap, you get rooted. What you can do is you can give someone freedom to remove that root, which also, of course, removes the dot component of that trap as well, which can save lives because those traps do crazy amounts of damage. Furthermore, you can bop them as well because it's a physical thing, but I would sooner use a freedom on that and save Bob for something else, like a Night Impale or something like that, because that is a bleed, so you can remove the bleed with Bob. Anyway, some more utilities from Blessing of Freedom. It makes you immune to roots and snares, so you can give someone freedom and they can run around on the traps to remove all of them. There's also certain damaging abilities that apply slow debuffs that you can completely immune by having freedom on you. Suleiman, the first mini-boss you fight in Priory, puts down a thunderclap, and that thunderclap has a slow component to it. If someone has freedom on them, when that thunderclap goes down, they take 0 damage, so that's something to keep in mind. The Prot Paladin utility is crazy, but I haven't even talked about the best part yet, which is you can interrupt the bejesus out of everything. Avenger's Shield interrupts and or silences the first target it hits for 3 seconds. So you have not only your usual interrupt, which is Rebuke, you have an extra interrupt that has a chance to reset when you use Blessed Hammer or you dodge parry, whatever the heck. That is kind of crazy. You can get a lot of interrupts that way. Furthermore, Divine Toll sends out 5 Avenger's Shields, 1 at your target and 4 at random targets, or 5 at random targets if you have no target for some reason. So what you can do is you can silence this guy and then target this guy and Divine Toll, and it'll hit this guy as well. It'll hit a bunch of other mobs if there are some, but you can guarantee 2 targets to get interrupted. Furthermore, you grab Divine Resonance, so every 5 seconds after casting Divine Toll, another Divine Toll gets cast, or another, sorry, not another Divine Toll, I wish. Another Avenger's Shield gets cast, so you can kind of plan it out and keep targeting something that is spam casting bolts to keep interrupting it after using Divine Toll. It is incredibly powerful. This is the single reason why I think Prot Paladin is one of the best tanks to carry your group with. If you have a group of friends that all kind of suck and you're a tank, play a Prot Paladin and you'll carry them to 3k. I'm not joking. It is incredibly powerful. Interrupts make the difference. As long as your friends are good enough to do boss mechanics and not stand in shit, Prot Paladin can get the job done. So I've now yapped for almost 20 minutes about how to play Prot Paladin. If I missed something, well, I'm sorry, but I kind of don't give a fuck anymore. But now it is time to jump into some keys. We have a +2 key from getting our Pract Keystone quest thing. I don't want to do +2 keys. That's for chumps. We're going to jump into a +6 key because we have 696 item level from doing a wide variety of things. If you want to know how I get the 696 item level, check out the first episode of the Blood DK series on the channel. You will see there exactly what I did. The core gist of it is I get weathered crests from rep rewards. I use those weathered crests to craft 675 gear. I then use that 675 item level to go into delves. Once I do all the delves that I can, I go and do M0s, and by that point I'm pretty decked out. I use carved crests to upgrade all of my gear. I use runed crests to upgrade hero pieces that I might have, like this chest piece or these wrists. And also, on top of all of that, I do craft with enchanted runed crests if I have more than one available. I usually have one available from doing the Kill Demenzius quest. Again, all of that is explained in the Blood DK series in a little bit more detail in the first episode. Now, let's go and find ourselves a +6 key. Oh, okay. No countdown timer, no nothing. Just ready, check, past we go. Okay, well, let's get started with Halls of Atonement +6. Out of the frying pan and into the oven, we're going to Avenger's Shield this, Judgment here, and we can run. Okay, that's it. We're going to look for an Avenger's Shield reset here. Shield of the Righteous goes out, we kick this guy, and now we're big chilling. We're going to pop our Sentinel for the big damn. And we're going to stun this guy. Then we're going to look for a kick on Loyal Beastmac. There, our Shaman, who said he would do that, interrupts the Houndmaster. Beautiful. Hunter stuns the Houndmaster. I guess he really doesn't want him to group up, so God forbid he actually gets into the group and gets damaged by all the cleave. But that's alright. There's only so much we can do to group the mobs if our group doesn't help us. We need more damage on the Houndmaster so he's not shooting our friends here. We're going to use a bit of a defensive here. And now let's actually use Word of Glory like I talked about in my intro. Well, not intro, but like class explanation thing, whatever. You know what I mean. I am trying to stay a little bit healthy here. We ran out of thingy with this stuff. Let's Shield of the Righteous. Give ourselves a nice little Word of Glory. Okay, there we go. I could have bubbled there and stuff to make myself extra safe, but it's whatever. Not a lot of prio damage here. A lot of pad though. The shard is living for a very long time after everything else is dead. So that means people are not prioritizing it with their damage, which is fine, I guess. It's okay. You guys don't have to if you don't want to. I can't force you. Our Hunter's really struggling with the DPS for some reason. 704 item level, doing that little. Maybe they don't have tier set, which makes a huge difference. All right, that's the shard. We're going to jump down here and fight these guys. The reason being, we want to, hold on, let me just get this interrupt on the Obliterator. There we go. The reason being, we want to reset our cooldowns a little bit before we jump into things with the next, or the shard does a lot of damage. It can be pretty nasty. We're gonna look for a kick on the Houndmaster. Our Shaman did help us with the star one that's marked with star. We're gonna go ahead and just hit these guys down here and get them into the pull as well. And we gotta put Consecration down. And we're gonna use another defensive because our Sentinel was about to run out. Sentinel being a defensive for ourselves. And like I talked about, we're going to blind because of the affix, make sure that that gets taken care of, and Houndmaster needs to get interrupted again. I wasted my other kick. Star is probably going to get interrupted by our friend the Shaman. Probably already has because it's on cooldown. So there is that. Beautiful. Look at that. Now we have Groundskeepers running around doing all sorts of things. We're going to go ahead and stun this one because he seems to be making a beeline exactly straight into these mobs, and I don't want that. And now we're ready to go into the next shard. Okay, we're gonna hit this guy. We're going to kick this guy. I hit the first one with a Avenger's Shield, so that shut him up real good. We have another reset for Avenger's Shield here. We're just getting a lot of kicks, and I love that. Divine Toll goes out, make sure all of these mobs are aggroed onto me because it does a bunch of damage. Divine Toll is like an AoE taunt, I swear to God. We're going to use Sentinel, and we're going to pop our Eye of Tyr, because that's what we need to do to make use of our hero talent. So we want to use that as often as possible. I can also treat that as a pretty big defensive. Eye of Tyr reduces my damage taken from the mobs hit by it by 25%. That is pretty juicy. Lots of buttons on Paladin, lots of things to do, but what you can do is also carry your group by just getting all those kicks in. It is wonderful. I'm considering getting interrupts back just to see how many interrupts I've done. Maybe I add a small window for interrupts, just for Paladin. The shard is popping off, doing its damage and all that nonsense. We don't have to worry about that too much because it's the only thing that's alive. So there's no other extra damage on top of that, making it pretty healable, especially in a +6. This group's popping off. This weird lighting thing is so annoying. Anyway, I want this slasher, so let's hit it before it deactivates. I'm going to interrupt this guy. I failed my interrupt. Now we're going to pull this group over here because I want that %. And now we Divine Toll. Oh, goodness. Okay, we're going to taunt with Bubble because I'm a little bit nervous. And there we go. We're going to blind now. We need to look for an interrupt here on the Houndmaster soon after that stun goes out. Stone Fist goes out. I'm going to get knocked back. We're going to interrupt the Houndmaster now. I don't have AoE blind, but I can stun this collector. The reason we stun the collector instead of interrupting it is because it's a channel. Channels can be taken care of that way. I don't have a way to take care of these orbs, so I'm going to use a big defensive here in case these mobs get buffed. They do not. Stone Fist goes out and I get knocked back. That's no problem. I just run back very quickly. That is that. Disrupting Screech might be an issue here, but I don't think it's going to be. We're going to interrupt the Obliterator. We're going to kick this guy because I don't have any CC available right now. And that should be it. Okay. I'm focusing on interrupts and stuff because that's, I don't know, that's fun. I like that. We're going to move off to the side now because I think there's a frontal coming. Nice. So slashers make this really annoying for Prot Paladin because I get bounced around like a cheap ragdoll. Yeah, ragdoll, that's the word I was looking for. Now, let's look for an interrupt on the Obliterator or a silence. We're going to target it again, hit it with a Divine Toll interrupt. We're going to pull these Groundskeepers. We're going to pull this Slasher. We're going to pop our wings. We're going to heal ourselves as much as we can, get some interrupts in, and we're going to look for a hit on the Houndmaster. He's going to run closer to us for a little bit before he starts spamming shoots, and we're going to look for a, whatchamacallit, an Eye of Tyr here. Oh, the Slasher didn't get pulled. Now it did, so I'm going to... It was going to get pulled by the guy either way, so yeah, it's whatever. Blind goes out, takes care of most of those orbs. Knock up from the Shaman does the same. We're going to use an interrupt on the Houndmaster. We get knocked back into a frontal from the Slasher. We seem to be doing okay here. All right, Disrupting Screech goes out, something to look out for. Loyal Beast gets interrupted. Now, the Hunter, I think, misunderstood what I said at the start of the dungeon. I said, please help me. Oh, never mind, I'm not dead. Good. Very good. I thought I was dead. I thought I was going to fly off the map, but I was fine. Swipe goes out. My bad on the positioning on that, but it's a bit hectic sometimes. But yes, at the beginning of the dungeon, before it even began, actually, I said to the group, please kick the Houndmasters, and we big chillin'. And the Paladin, or not the Paladin, sorry, the Hunter what he's been doing, he's been stunning them every time they cast, which is actually a massive pain in the ass. I'm glad that they're doing it because it means they paid attention to what I said earlier, but what I really want is interrupts. I need interrupts for those, because what I need is for them to not cast it again after the stun ends. And why would they cast it again? Because stuns and CC and stuff like that doesn't count as an interrupt anymore for, you know, this entire expansion. So you got to make sure that you use... Oh, I have no way to stop these. I can interrupt them, I guess. You have to make sure you use an interrupt rather than a stun, unless you have no other choice, which you often do, which is letting other people handle it. So what often happens when you use CC on an interrupt instead of an interrupt on an interrupt? An interrupt what? Instead of using an interrupt on an ability that can be interrupted, it just gets spam casted right away. And also, other people are using their interrupts, so their interrupts are now on cooldown, and you don't have a way to actually kick that. Now, we are waiting for Halkias to activate. While we do that, we're going to fight this Houndmaster here. There's nothing else I need to pull. I will have percent if I just pull this Houndmaster. I've pulled other things to make sure we have percent. So when the Houndmaster kicks the bucket, I'm going to drag the remaining 2 Gargons into the boss fight. Waiting for that cast to start after the stun finishes. Oh, never mind. He decides to shoot one more time. Earthquake interrupts him yet again. He decides to shoot one more time. There's Loyal Beasts. And one of the shamans takes care of it. Look at that. All right, that's the Houndmaster dead. I'm going to ping that I'm going towards boss. Let's go towards boss, friends. We'll have the 2 little guys to fight while we're doing our thing. Mana is at 100%. I can see it down here. That's the healer's mana. I don't have to worry about that. We're going to use wings here for this tank buster type hit, and then we're going to move out. And then oh my god, there were 10 orbs. There were 10 orbs that we never handled. That is whoopsie daisy. Okay, we're going to use a defensive here. Go stand in this again. Everything hurts extra and we're doing 0 damage. Why? Because boss has 10 stacks of this orb buff, because we didn't see the orbs that we left behind there. Had I known, I would have not gone in, but c'est la vie. I'm so flustered right now. I just made a massive mistake, which is I did not move the boss away. Our hunter goes down. I'm going to say my bad. We're going to go ahead and CR our friend here because we're the only CR. I'm not mad, Ares. I'm just disappointed. There we go. We get another slam down. We're going to move away from that as well. And let's try to shut the f up and actually play, because we're playing very poorly right now because I'm busy yapping instead of actually doing things. Another Heave the Breeze. He's about to reach 100 energy, so we move away. All right, we should be okay. I'm going to put my slam down that's coming up in a second here on top of the existing one. I use the defensive while doing so to make sure I live, and we're big chilling. Okay, I feel really bad about the mistake I made there. Basically, after the second Heave the Breeze, you're supposed to get the hell away from the zones. Another Heave the Breeze will go out, and we're moving away from the zones so that we have space to move around the beams once the boss starts casting them, which is now. There you go. Second Heave the Breeze means move away from the zones so people can move around the beams. And we have these to take care of. I have blinds. I have an interrupt. Let's use that. Sorry about the first beams. My bad. Yeah, the first beams were my bad, but what can you do? I'm going to say Can't Lust this, and I'm going to jump into this. I'm going to use defensive while gathering. We're going to Judgment, Consecration, and then we just sit here. We have Eye of Tyr is going to go out as our defensive here for a moment. We have some extra shit being pulled over from here. We have the ankle biters also close enough. We're going to put down a Consecration to slow down the ankle biters. We're going to use our wings here. We need a lot of defensiveness. The Reavers reduce our healing taken, so we have to prevent damage rather than recover from damage, because the Mortal Strike reduces your healing. It's not additive, it's multiplicative, so you will still receive some healing, but don't count on it, basically. One Reaver goes down with the Lust. This is easy peasy lemon squeezy. It also helps that it's a +6 and that our DPS is pretty much blasting, so we big chillin'. But I still feel bad because of reasons. Now, I do need this group. I think with the 2 extra mobs that we pulled, we kind of don't need to pull this last set of groundskeepers, which will reduce sort of the strain on us on having to stop the groundskeepers from running away when they get low. Because you see this little line here? When they get to that HP or lower than it, what they're going to do is they're going to start running away from you. So I got to keep my Consecration up If I keep my consecration up, then I will be able to slow them down, because 50% is slow. I'm going to stun this guy because he's going in a bad direction. We're going to try and beat the bejesus out of this guy to make sure he doesn't reach anything we don't want him reaching. And then the Dark Blade is the last mob left. This little groundskeeper didn't actually manage to pull anything. Slasher will be turning the stone in like 12 seconds here, and then we can go. Yo, just back the fuck up. Don't pull that shit. Jesus Christ. People get a little too close to mobs waiting for them to turn to stone. All right, there we go. That's turned to stone. We can just run past. And I think we're good on percent. 80% is enough, it would seem. So we're just going to put down consecration in the middle of the room. We're going to open the door to knock us back, and we can go back to where our consecration was. We have Divine Toll available. I didn't use it near the end of the last pull because we're going to use it here when these little mobs spawn in, because it'll silence them. It'll also give us a bunch of aggro. So Divine Toll goes out. It'll silence a bunch of them. The ones that don't get silenced, I'll manually do so. And everything is stacked up. Now everything is stunned by the Shaman, and we are big chillin'. When someone gets it, we're going to give them freedom to let them move a little bit closer to try and take care of all of them, but we didn't manage to. A few of them managed to survive. What we're going to do is we're going to blind here to make sure that those orbs get taken care of. One Undying Stone Fiend did survive, but that is perfectly fine. We can handle that with just a little bit of an interrupt or maybe a stun. Let's use Wings. Let's use Eye of Tyr and get some damage in, because there's not much of damage happening to me as a tank in this fight. You just got to manage the adds, and they're not even that important. Oh, our friend here is running away from this. Let's try and kill the Stone Fiend before this slams down. Nice, we got the Stone Fiend after all. Very good. We have another call. We're going to go ahead and interrupt this one. Try and get aggro here. A bit of a pain in the ass. I don't have interrupts available right now, so I have to wait until I do. I'm going to try and get a kick on this, make it move over. Trying to get a Avenger Shield on this one, make it move over. Unfortunately, it's not stacked because it died before it could move, but that's okay. We're doing a decent job. All the range is standing a bit too far away to really make use of this thing if it's on them, but we do manage to take out 3 out of the 6, and the boss is dead, so it doesn't really matter. But on a tyrannical key or a higher key like 10, where it has always tyrannical, that might have been annoying because we might have had to deal with those adds a bit more. I'm going to use the defensive while I gather here. I'm going to put down a consecration, and a Divine Toll will help me hold aggro on absolutely everything here. And we're nice and safe here. I'm going to use a self-heal for the block chance, like we said, because I have Mortal Strike on me, which means the block chance is not as useful. We're going to bubble here just to make sure I hold aggro on everything. Quick turn around and kick on this guy, a little bit confined here. Loyal Beast does go out, which means these Gargons are about to do a shit ton more damage, and that's not good. We're going to use a Divine Toll, an Eye of Tyr to reduce the damage they do, and we're going to go ahead and also use Sentinel to further reduce the damage we take, and that should keep us alive through the Gargons being buffed up, I think, hopefully. Yes, they're no longer buffed up, which is good. Circle means get stunned, so we don't want to get stunned. We move out of that. We're using some Word of Glory. Now let's use Ardent Defender again. Now I'm very guilty of never using Guardian of Ancient Kings, even though we have a lot of CDR for it. That is because I am bad, and I apologize. This group lasted quite a long while. I'm curious to see if we let some orbs go off or not, but I don't know for now. Judgment, Spinny Hammer, interrupt this, and we're going to keep on going. I don't want to use, there we go, I used it now, but I didn't want to use initially Avenger's Shield, because what can happen is the mobs can, like the shield can jump to these slashers, and I really didn't want to pull those slashers because it's a lot of extra percent we don't need, and they're kind of a pain in the ass with the knockback, if I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to look for kicks on the Obliterator because the boss only targets me with his bolts, which I don't really give a shit about. We're standing right next to one of these like anima containers or whatever those are, because if melee gets targeted by that ad, melee can just keep standing right next to the container and just not give a shit. They can keep their uptime, they can keep smacking the boss, while ranged can use some of these other ones over here instead. So I think that works out quite well. It is on our warrior. He doesn't quite realize or doesn't see that there's one here. Fine. In higher keys, players are more accustomed to this strategy, so they just end up using this one. As a tank, you can never get the ad to actually go on you, so you don't have to worry about that. So as a DPS, don't leave it for your tank or something. What you can do is just use this. Your tank is there to let you keep your melee uptime. Just stand right there. Boss is fading from existence fairly quickly. I'm going to use blind here to take care of all of those orbsies. Funnily enough, our elemental shaman is making use of the one right next to the boss. I'm going to move the boss now over to the last remaining one in case our melee gets it. We're going to interrupt this guy at a distance. He still keeps on casting, because why would bosses move when you move? We're going to keep interrupting him to keep him dancing around these swirlies. And there we go. That's the last container. Last container gets used up by this one. We're going to get a new one. A new one is... where is it? I can't see it. Is it right on top of us? Am I stupid? Oh, there it is. Anima Fountain goes out. We're going to have to interrupt here in a second. We interrupt, keep it moving. And that is another one. I'm going to ping here so people can see where it is. There's a swirly. I live the swirly because I'm tank, and we move on. So I'm going to Judgment and then Avenger's Shield so that we make sure we get an interrupt on this. And we want to keep him right here in the middle of all of these. Why? Because that way we can reduce their health. If we reduce their health, he heals less off of them when he uses the heal. We're going to hold our damage until he casts an ability called Display of Power because it increases your damage done by 30%. And we're just going to use that to do crazy damage. So you want to hold your cooldowns or Lust if you have it for when he uses Display of Power. You don't want to overlap here. I am going to move him when I can here after this goes off because he's kind of standing right next to a puddle. Now I don't have to move him anymore. We're good. Dark Communion means he heals. Look, these have less health, so he's healing less from them. It is amazing. You want to make sure that is the case. Hunters here can help a little bit if they have pets like BM does. They can get a pet that actually has a Mortal Strike effect, i.e. he reduces the healing that the target takes. So this boss, if you have some kind of heal cut like an Arms Warrior Mortal Strike, Wound Poison from rogues, Hunter with that thing, all of that stuff can really reduce the time it takes to kill that mini boss. Very valuable stuff that you can do there. All right, we're going to Divine Toll, make sure that these guys all die. We're going to move out of the way of this thing so it doesn't knock us around like a $2 ragdoll. Yeah, ragdoll, that's the word I'm looking for. And we're going to beat the shit out of this boss. One cool thing you can do as a tank on this boss, or as anyone really, you don't have to be a tank, but with tank it's easier. You can stand and cover 2 beams when he teleports to the middle. I'll explain that in just a little bit, but for now it looks like we're just kind of blasting through the boss. He's using Door of Shadows. That means we're going to step away a little bit because these are all going to congregate around him. I can see a pattern where I can stand here, and now he's going to, we're going to lay on hands this person. We're going to stand really close to him. Okay, we're going to have to stand here. If we stand really close to him, we can block 2 beams instead of just 1. So now you see 3 people with this debuff. When you're being hit by a beam, you get that debuff and it does damage to you. If you're blocking 2 beams by standing really close to him, you're still only taking the damage of 1 beam. If you do this as a tank, you can significantly reduce how much damage the healer has to heal here for this little intermission thing. So that can be very useful for you. I'm going to look to see where people are not standing. I'm going to stand right about here. Try and block 2 beams. As you can see, there's only 2 beams going out. I have 1. 3 debuffs means I'm blocking 2 beams. You just got to get real close to the boss, basically. This also helps if people are snoozing and not doing the mechanic, actually. But I like doing it in general just because it reduces the healing necessary for the boss. All right, we have our Bloodlust. We're going to put some off heals down for people to get hit by stuff, and the boss should be dead here. We have percent covered because we knew the route. We made a route for this. And just like that, our first key is a +6 where we popped the hell off and got a very solid 2-star. Do we get anything useful? No, we do not. That is unfortunate, but we're going to say thank you for the key. Sorry about the first beams on first boss. We're going to open up our macros. We're going to drag this one to our bars, and we're going to shill our YouTube channel. That is what we do. We shill YouTube channels here. All right, and we're going to skedaddle. This completes our Cracked Keystone quest, which gives us Ruined and Gilded Ethereal Crests. Very, very nice. That gives us a chance to maybe get enough Gilded Crests, maybe, to craft something. We're pretty close. 46 Gilded Ethereal Crests is pretty good. I need 60 to craft something with the spark that I have down here. I could just craft with a spark, but I don't think it's worth it. I'd rather just not have to recraft and just craft into 720 item level right away. So that's something to consider. We have 35 Ruined Ethereal Crests, so that's not enough to craft anything. We need 45. I would be happy to craft with a Ruined Ethereal Crest. I might even do that once I have another spark, but we're going to save 1 spark to craft with Gilded. We're probably going to craft, I don't know, jewelry? I'd probably want to craft something instead of this Radiant Necromancer's Band to reduce the mastery. Versatility is nice, but mastery I really don't want because I'm trying to go haste crit. It's not horrible, but it's better to go haste crit on this. We have a very good necklace and a very good ring, so... But that's a future Vlad problem. We're going to delete this Cracked Keystone because we're done with that now, and I really want to take a quick look at some interrupts. Let's go over to interrupts, and oh, goodness gracious. 46. 23 from Rebuke, by the way, and 23 from Avenger Shield. So it's not just me relying on Paladin to get a bunch of kicks. We had almost twice the kicks of a Shaman from just Rebuke. So I feel like I did a good job. I'm very happy about that. No shade on these guys. They did great. That's more than usually I get from some pugs. So this is fine. And it being a 6 means they didn't have many chances to get their kicks in because there's just not enough time. But that's really, really nice. Now let's switch this back to healing done and leave that at that. Let's see. How was the healing? 19% overheal means I was pretty low, but everyone has pretty low overhealing. I think that might be because of how the healer was playing. The healer was great, by the way. Now, I'm curious what my top healing taken is. By far, it's Earth Shield, and then next up, it's Chain Heal, and then Riptide. I think Riptide in general is going to be high on everyone because it's just, you know, the way that this spec heals or this hero talent heals. The top 2 healing by far being Earth Shield and Chain Heal means I wasn't being babysat. That makes me happy. So it means I'm not a pain in the ass to live. Let's take a look at our buff up times here. Take a look at auras. Oh goodness. Okay, Shield of the Righteous is 94%. That's about right. We casted 32 times we applied it, and that to me means I didn't have to reapply it many times during fights. I didn't run out of it very often. I don't think I have 32 pulls in total, but it dropping a few times through the entire dungeon feels pretty good. 94% is really damn good. 82% on Consecration is also solid. Sometimes I did notice that I didn't have it up in combat. And that's something I need to work on. I could get this to be better, but I'm very happy with 82%. Strength and Adversity, parry chance. It's probably more than 3% that it says here. It just doesn't calculate that because I think it stacks. That is from using Avenger's Shield, and every target hit gives you 3%. 70% uptime on that. I think I could improve that, but I think what I'm doing is I'm saving my Avenger's Shield a little bit for interrupts, which I think is kind of worth it for the group in a pug environment. It reduces my survivability, but I feel like 70% is still a pretty good amount. Shake the Heavens is 42%. I believe really good paladins can keep this up a whole bunch more. I personally might not be one of those. I don't really focus on my damage done as a tank pretty much ever. So this might be something I will not really perfect, especially not in this series. But I feel like 42% is a little bit low. I could probably get that to be a significant bit higher. But like I said, I just don't focus on damage. Maybe I should focus more on just using Eye of Tyr on cooldown, and that could help this stat as well. But again, my main focus has been kind of just using Avenger's Shield so I could get all those crazy interrupts. But that's another thing entirely, I guess. All right, cool. I'm pretty happy with this. The most important thing that I was looking at was a Shield of the Righteous and Consecration uptime. Those two seem to be pretty good. 82% could use some work, but it's pretty dang good for the things we're doing. 94%, I don't think it gets much better than that, to be honest with you. So hell yeah, that's pretty dang good. Not bad for the first run this season as a Prot Paladin. I did play Prot Paladin before, of course. I had the whole NA series and everything from season 2. Where in the last few weeks I went to 3K with a Prot Paladin on a brand new account. That series was really fun. If you guys want to check that out, you might enjoy it. But that is pretty much it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, make sure you subscribe because there's more episodes coming. If you made it to this point in the video, include the word stash in your comment. Because goodness gracious, would you just look at that thing? It is amazing. If you do include the word stash in your comment, I'll make sure to heart it when I see it. But as always, friends, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.